Hampshire captain Jimmy Adams made a very positive declaration on the penultimate day of the LV County Championship match with Derbyshire at the Ageas Bowl, a day where Danny Briggs completed his first 5-wicket haul of the season. Derbyshire had struggled to reach a score of 166 for 7 at the end of day 2, which left them 222 runs behind their hosts on first innings and still needing 73 more runs to avoid being asked to follow on. Tony Palladino and David Wainwright had added 14 runs in the morning's first 7 overs, only for the latter to then be bowled by Kyle Abbott, with 59 runs still required to make Hampshire bat again next. The home side would have been confident of bowling their opposition out in plenty of time, but they'd not counted on Palladino batting so well. With 105 50s under his belt in his career, Palladino clearly knows one end of a bat from the other, and he played what could yet turn out to be a match-defining innings. His latest 50 came 85 minutes into the morning, just after he and Tim Groenewald had managed to score the necessary runs to avoid that follow-on. Some effort from numbers 9 and 10. Palladino had needed 82 balls for this crucial half-century. He struck 4 fours in that, this being his latest. Whether that moment affected him, only he will know, as next ball he called Groenewald through for a suicidal single to run out his partner and to end an impressive partnership of 65. Adam Wheater supplied the throw. That brought last man Mark Foote in, and he must have upset Matt Coles when Hampshire batted, as the bowler now delivered a brutal delivery, which Foote played pretty well in the end. He stuck around just long enough to earn his side a second batting bonus point, and then, with a total on 257, Briggs, who'd begun the day with figures of 4 for 29, had Foote stumped. For the bowler, that was the 6th fifer of his career. He ended with figures of 5 for 50 here, Palladino finishing on 60. Derbyshire had been dismissed for 257, and that gave their hosts a very handy first innings advantage of 131 runs. 14 more were added to that before Will Smith edged Palladino behind shortly after lunch. The visitors had had a better day thus far, and their attack was a little unfortunate not to make further inroads into the Hampshire lineup. Both Adams and Joe Gatting used the edge of their bats for some of their boundaries early on, although as they settled in, things naturally became a little easier for them, and the runs began to come more off the middle of their bats. There was no rush for their runs at this stage, but that began to change as their partnership developed, the lead moving into the 200s. Adams looked especially comfortable against the spin of Wainwright and Marcus North, a man who once took a 6 in a test match against England. Neither slow bowler caused Adams much concern, as the left-hander struck a couple of pleasing 6s to get the score moving along nicely. Gatting also cleared the rope off Wainwright, who was unable to assert the kind of pressure Briggs had managed throughout his spells in the Derbyshire innings. The scorer moved on to 92 when the left-armer did have some success, though, Gatting edging to Wayne Madsen after Wainwright had switched to over the wicket. Gatting was out for 39, but all that did was bring in James Vince, who was just the man Hampshire wanted in order to pick up their scoring rate a bit. He struck a couple of early boundaries to take his side through to the tea break on 106 for 2, the lead now standing on 237. So the plan after the break was for Hampshire to push on. Adams completed his second half-century of the match off his 117th delivery, with his 4th 4 to go with his 2 maximums. It was the 5th time that the Hampshire captain has made a 50 this summer, although he's still awaiting his first 100 of the campaign. He was out for 67 shortly after he'd added a couple more boundaries to his tally. He'd taken the lead to 280 by the time he lost his wicket. Wheater then played a cameo with some cheeky shots, adding 26 more runs to that lead with Vince, who became the second man this season to make it to 700 championship runs. He was out just after doing that on 40, Scott Elston picking up the first wicket of his career with a stumping, a dismissal which left the home side on 175 for 4. 11 runs later, Wheater was also out to Elston, Groenewald with a catch on the long-on boundary. With shots like that, the declaration was clearly imminent. Before Adams called them in, there was a chance for Sean Irvine to throw the bat. Both Wainwright and Elston were smashed for huge 6s before the declaration arrived, with a total on 214 for 5. Irvine blasting 32 runs off only 13 balls. It was a positive declaration which set Derbyshire a target of 346 to win for the first time this season, and the first job for their openers, Stephen Moore and Paul Borrington, was to see out the 14 overs that remained in this day. Briggs was given the new ball, and before the close, Adams had also called upon Smith, who saw this ball to Moore planted over the mid-wicket boundary for a 6. Derbyshire had made 31 without loss by the end of the day, which should now lead to a fascinating final one if the weather holds. The visitors need a further 315 runs from 96 overs to taste success. Hampshire, of course, require 10 wickets to win for the 4th time this season in this competition.